The Pittsburgh Pirates are above 500. The Pittsburgh Pirates have a winning record. These are two sentences I did not think I would say at any point in late April, but those are two sentences that are just simply stating the facts. The Pittsburgh Pirates winning tonight's ball game 2-1 over the Kansas City Royals in a big win, arguably the biggest win of the year in maybe the biggest series of the year, even though it's only a 2-game set. The Pirates win it again 2-1, now 12-11 on the year. This is, of course, is Pirates Postgame here on Pittsburgh Sports Live, the Pirates edition of Pittsburgh Postgame here on PSL. I'm your host, Mike Asti, as usual, and I am joined by a returning guest of ours, Mike Persak, who covered the Pirates for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette and just was able to jump on some of those post-game Zooms. As I do see, it looks like he's covering from his undisclosed location at PNC Park. The Pirates returning home after a couple series on the road where the DH was in play. Not the case in this one. Tyler Anderson, another solid start. He goes 6 again, doesn't get the win. The Pirates have to come back to get this win and get this late. Jacob Stallings again, a couple hits. The offense tapers off, but they do enough, and the bullpen hangs on, and they win it 2-1. So, Mike, when we had you on a couple weeks ago, I think I asked you this question, and unfortunately, I don't like to repeat myself, especially with repeat guests, but I got to ask it again. The Pirates now 12-11. They win this game. They win against a good team, to say the very, very least. It's a Royals team that entered this game with 14 victories, leading Major League Baseball. How much longer can the Pirates keep this up? This is unbelievable to this point. I mean, we are now going to approach May. Of course, you don't normally rate a baseball team and how good or bad or ugly they are until middle of June at really the earliest. But I think even the most critical Pirate media member or fan is admitting that this is well ahead of the expectations to even be having this conversation with May approaching.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just like it'll go on as long as the pitching can sustain this. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. That was the big question for me, and I think the offense will like pick them up in fits and spurts at times. But it's not like they're scoring a million runs right now. Anyways, they're kind of generating, especially tonight. Like they ran a hit and run with Jacob Stallings, for, like who would have seen that coming? And then got a little bloop single from Wilmer Defoe, and like there's your 2 runs, and that was good enough tonight because their bullpen's been awesome. I think their bullpen will be probably pretty good all season. Like, there's no reason for me to believe that they're going to fall off that much. But I still, am not completely sold that the starting pitching is going to be this good, this efficient all year. Tyler Anderson looked great. He's looked really good all season. JT Brubaker's looked really good all season. The rest of them have had some hit and miss spots. And so, like, we'll see. Maybe the rest of the rotation is what ends up getting them. But, as long as the pitching's there, like, there's no reason they can't sustain this, like for at least, the interim, like, and I don't expect it to be like that all season, but right now, I mean, they're riding the wave and everyone's kind of throwing the ball well, and that's all you can really ask for.
They are riding the wave and then some. Again, the Pirates win this one 2-1. They're now 12-11 on the year, above 500. Again, shocking to say here. Mike Persak joining me from the PG, and you hit on it. Yeah, the offense you would figure can pick them up at times, has picked them up at times this year. The thought process was the offense was going to have to do that because the rotation wouldn't give them enough. And the rotation hasn't normally gone deep in games, but they have got better starts even in the past week and a half than earlier in the year, which includes tomorrow night's Mitch Keller, who's pitched better than he's been pitching in the past, the last couple starts. So we'll see if that continues. And the bullpen, which many thought was going to be a strength, has been a strength, and maybe even more than some thought, because earlier in the year, they were having to enter these games in the 4th inning and really be in long relief since the starters weren't going deep in games. You see Tyler Anderson go 6, so it's not like it's a weird bullpen appearance. You see 3 relievers, regular outing, basically. Rodriguez, Howard, those are kind of the studs to this point, maybe going to be dealt at the deadline. But this was one of those games where they were able to win, and normally a bad team does not win games like this. Kind of odd the Royals were not able to pull it out. But we mentioned the offense picking up the pitching. Obviously, that was not really the case in this game, and it's fair to now say the offense has tapered off. The offense may be playing above themselves earlier in the season. Phil Evans in particular, he's now cooled off, to say the very, very least. Yes, Stallings and a few others are hitting. Newman now hitting a little bit more than recently, even Polanco. But with Hayes still right now on the horizon of his return, is there a concern of this offense actually being what could kill this team? And are players like Phil Evans and others, with the exception maybe of Brian Reynolds, now more vulnerable of being moved around and moved out of this lineup when Hayes returns? Because when Hayes was supposed to return, they were all hitting. So what can you do? You got to keep Evans in there. But now Hayes is yet to return, and Evans in particular is no longer hitting.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, we'll see what happens with Evans. I don't think he has any real risk of being, like, DFA'd. Like, that still seems so far-fetched,
Okay.
right? Like, especially because there are guys like, and, Wilmer Defoe came up big tonight, but
right.
I think that he would be, at risk, or even Todd Frazier more at risk than Phil Evans.
Is Phil Evans, though, vulnerable of becoming a utility player?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I think that that's where he's more at risk. Is like, Gonzalez is hitting all right this year, and like maybe you kind of switch them in and out in terms of like a utility role. But when Hayes comes back, he's going to play third base every day, and so that's just one less position. Once Kai Tom like joins the team and is full go, like he's going to be an outfielder most days, I imagine, because he's a natural outfielder. Maybe that experiment ends in disaster and they bring Phillip Evans back in or whatever. But I think that there's going to be a little bit more shuffling for sure, because Brian Hayes is going to play almost every single day once he's healthy and once he's full go. And so, there's nothing wrong with, like, that'll help the offense either way. If Brian Hayes is what he was last year, or, well, I guess I can't even really say at the beginning of the year because he only played one game, but if he is what we think he is, then it doesn't hurt to take out Phil Evans. Like, whatever. Like that's fine. If you can get him a spot start here and there and he produces then, like, great. But Brian Hayes is like your centerpiece. And so obviously it doesn't hurt to have him in the lineup, and he should be in the lineup every day, But to answer your larger question about like the offense generally, like, I mean, they could use a little boost. Like, they could honestly use Brian Hayes coming back right now, right? Like, it just feels like it's hard to pinpoint like one guy who's really struggling, because it happens in fits and spurts where one guy will have a little 0 for streak and then another guy will pop up and have a little 0 for streak, and but they could use it. Feels like it's almost gotten a little stale, doesn't it? It seems weird to say in baseball, but that's kind of how it feels to me a little bit.
It almost feels that way, and I also think, and I'm going to ask you this too, it feels like the Ke'Bryan Hayes has become this elephant in the room. That he was initially supposed to not be out as long as he's been out. He got hurt in that first opening weekend. We know the opening home run. He was great at the end of last season. Obviously, he's going to get his spot back in the order when he returns. And prior to the season, many in the national media were saying that he could be one of the better players in all of baseball. Maybe that was a little bit cart before the horse, since we haven't been able to see him be fully healthy yet. And obviously, we have to see him deal with these pitchers again, et cetera, throughout the league. But have you heard anything about his progress? As you're already smiling, have you heard anything about his progress? And is that something even really being brought up to Derek Shelton? Does he make any comments about that? Because this is now, to be fair, it was a 10-day stint. We're almost 2 weeks beyond the 10 days at this point? Yeah. And it's not even being discussed on social media. I feel like the fans aren't even asking about it. It just seems weird that.
Yeah, well, so he was asked about it again today, and he just said, like, yeah, I talked to Brian, but we're taking it day by day. He hasn't resumed like swinging the bat or anything like that. Like, he's still on the shelf. So like that's as far as we know on it. But like, I don't know. There's no reason for me to think that they're lying to us and that it's more serious than we think. But it is concerning, right? Like, where it's the same injury that gets reactivated again because Todd Tomzik, their director of sports medicine, who was giving us an update, told us that he re-aggravated it, said he did it on like a very similar swing to what he did it the first time. And like, that's just in batting practice, but like, doesn't it worry you that like, he's probably going to have to take that swing again? And how do you know when he's really ready to take that swing again? Like, I don't know. Cause he obviously felt good enough to be taking swings in some capacity. If it's just like that specific swing and it's common enough where it happens twice in the span of like a month, whether it be playing practice or in a game, like, I don't know, it's enough to be a little bit worried. Like, I don't think there's any reason to think that it's going to be like a real long thing where he's going to need surgery or anything like that. Like, I think they would tell us if that were the case, but it's certainly something to keep an eye on,
I think it is. And I also think that it's kind of weird there's not maybe more conversation and people wondering what's going on with this. And you don't like to see a star player that you're building around and is so important to the future of the franchise hurt, but also hurt at his age and then having to sit out longer and re-aggravate injuries at his age. Stars have had injuries and some missed tons of time, and what if stories exist, but it seems early in his career to be going through this, and maybe just anticipation on the fact that there was so much hype. He was so great at the end of last season. See him go down this early, and there's still that funniness out there that the longer he's out, it's going to be worse for him in terms of pressure because this team is going to come back down to earth at some point, and it's going to be really unfortunate if it's upon the return of Ke'Bryan Hayes, they just then start unraveling, which I feel like that joke is getting close to being reality the longer he is out. He is going to linger into when this team is eventually going to have to taper off. At some point, I feel like that's going to occur. It wouldn't be his fault, but that eventually seems like where we're headed here. If Pirates do win this one 2-1 over the Royals, I want to ask this, and I put this out to Twitter, because the Royals have kind of been a surprise as well this year, to say, again, the very least. And they're a team that right now is looking like a legit contender, certainly in their division, like the Pirates. Maybe it's a little bit of a winnable division, but this is a Royals team that kind of was tearing things up, looking to rebuild for a new era of Royals baseball with Hosmer and company no longer there. Which one of these teams is more surprising to you, the Royals or the Pirates?
I think the Pirates probably, just because of where they were in like their state of rebuild. Like the Royals still have like, you know, they like went and got Carlos Santana this offseason. Not saying that Carlos Santana is like a game breaking guy and he's going to make a superstar, but you know they're spending money. Whit Merrifield is a at this point an established like really good ball player. You know they still have Salvi Perez who's playing well. Jorge Soler has been around the block a time or two. Like you know I think that like you could look at that lineup and be like, okay, well they're like kind of trying to win a few games here, like even if they are a little bit young. And to be fair, I don't necessarily think that they're gonna like. You know, we'll see. They could prove me wrong too, but like the Twins have been terrible. I don't expect the Twins to be as bad as they've been. Like the who am I forget? Oh, the White Sox. They're gonna like probably win that division. They're really good. So
you would imagine the Tigers have been a little better than some would have thought. But yeah.
So you know, like those things like they happen. But I would say the Pirates are a little bit more surprising just because I'm shocked by their pitching, by their starting pitching. I thought their starting pitching was going to be like it was really hard for me to see that piecing together. And now without Chad Kuhl, and they're still just getting like call-ups from Yajure and Pro, who are like producing pretty well, you know, like as well as you could ask them to do. Like, I don't know. It's just kind of, they have strong momentum with their starting pitching, which is like something that I really wouldn't have seen coming before the season.
Oh, I don't think anyone saw it coming, and Chad Kuhl was maybe that guy that some would have thought maybe could be the only one to save the staff. He did have the opening day start. He ended up being the worst pitcher. He's not even there any longer in terms of getting starts right now, so he's dealing with what he's dealing with. But JT Brubaker, I don't think anyone thought that. At this point, if we're handing out a month-long Cy Young Award, I got to throw some votes his way. It's been unbelievable. And the only reason he didn't win his last start is because he was dealing with a pitcher throwing a no-hitter for most of the game. And then even Tyler Anderson's been better than I would have thought. Some of the veterans, they've not got decent production from Trevor Cahill and company. And again, we'll see Mitch Keller tomorrow night. So the pitching staff has been better than many would have thought. It's been better than where it was even the first couple weeks of the season. And that's, I think, why this team's able to win, because the staff can only be so bad and ask the offense and the bullpen to do so much. Getting these quality starts is maybe how they're able to keep this up. I would imagine the staff would still eventually taper off. Brubaker still could be great, but come down to earth a little bit. But we will see. That's the phrase of the season right now for the Pirates, who, again, win this one 2-1 over the Royals. That game tomorrow night could give them a chance to win those two in a row, which would be a weird thing to do against, at the point, the best team in baseball in Kansas City. Mike Persak joining me from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Mike, I do want to ask you this before we get to preview tomorrow night's game, and that's Mitch Keller going there against Mike Minor. So it's going to be an interesting start. Mitch Keller's ERA still around 7, but coming off of a decent outing. Just overlying the great debate kind of the last few days around Major League Baseball. Madison Bumgarner throwing a 7-inning no-hitter. It doesn't officially count as a no-hitter, but yet Major League Baseball creates these games with these back-to-back doubleheaders where 7 innings is going to be an official game, so the game counts. but the individual accomplishments don't count. Where do you stand on if that's a no-hitter for you, if that should count? And are you even a little bit surprised of how Major League Baseball is handling this? They made the decision to have these 7-inning doubleheaders, which I actually think is a nice thing. I don't mind these 6:40 start times. We're going to wrap this up potentially around 10:30 instead of doing this at 11:30 on most situations in most seasons. But to then come out and say your individual accomplishment doesn't count seems a bit hypocritical. And obviously it's not 9. He could have lost the hit. He could have gave up a hit in those last 2 innings. But where are you on Bumgarner or just pitchers in general, and individual accomplishments in general, and if they should count in these 7-inning games? Because it seems like the individual feats aren't counting to the record book, but the game counts as a win or a loss.
Yeah, so I have never had a problem with 7-inning doubleheaders until this exact thing. Like I was totally cool with it the whole time, but now that there's a no-hitter, I don't think it should count. Like I don't think it should count as the same as a no-hitter, because the 8th and 9th inning are like the pressure packed. Like that's you're the most tired. Obviously, you've thrown the most pitches.
Right.
Like that's hard to get through. Most of the times in a no-hitter that isn't a perfect game, when you get to the 9th inning, the top of the order coming back up, right? And like now you got to face those hitters again. Like,
we've seen no-hitters broken up in the 8th and 9th. Yeah. The Pirates, I think Stone was at the 7th inning. I mean, it's late in games.
Yeah. So like I don't think it should count the same, but like to me that just highlights that the 7-inning doubleheader is ridiculous. Like MLB should recognize it, even if it doesn't count the same, because they're the ones who said that it should be.
That's my issue. Yeah,
like that's where it comes from. Like I don't think it's the same accomplishment, but it should probably still count, because like it's not Madison Bumgarner's fault that he didn't throw 30 more pitches and 2 more innings against like that's not his fault. Like he did what he can do. So maybe there has to be like, I think they added it as like a specific like special designation or something, or like I saw someone, like I think it was John Heyman was tweeting that like it's officially called like I can't even remember, like a special achievement or something like that, which is stupid in its own right. Like but maybe that's the way forward, is it's like, okay, you should acknowledge the guy, toss an asterisk on there and call it a day. Like I don't know.
It's interesting if they're going to throw an asterisk on that, because Major League Baseball was hesitant to throw asterisks on many other things that people wanted asterisks on, and now they're going to throw an asterisk on this. So again, just non-consistency and some hypocrisy included there. I think that's my issue. That I really would love to know if Madison Bumgarner was fully, because the players aren't always aware of what's going on. I'd love to know if he thought, okay, this is not a no-hitter, or what his thinking is even of this and how it's being celebrated by him, if it is. Because
did you hear his post-game quote?
I don't think I did. No,
I can't remember. He thanked 2 people. I can't remember who his first one was. He said, "Thank you to somebody for this," and then he goes, "And then I'd like to thank Rob Manfred for making 7-inning doubleheaders a thing this year." So he was aware. I think he was playing it funny. Yeah,
I'm sure somebody also on the PR team let him know what's going on before he went to that press conference.
Right.
But it would have been funny if maybe the players would have done a normal dog pile or something to celebrate it. It just, my only issue, as you said, is Major League Baseball made this a thing, which I get why. I mean, personally, I'm not a fan of 7-inning games to be the new thing. I know that's a whole debate for some, that they just want games to now be 7 innings in general based off last year. I don't want to do that, because what you detail, the 8th and 9th being so important, that would then stain the whole record books for me. And maybe I'm being too much of a historian, but I wouldn't want that in general. I don't mind it as much for double headers, but if you're going to do it, then you got to count what's going on, or else you can't do it. So maybe this is something, especially with everybody, with more players and everyone around Major League Baseball being vaccinated, teams allowing fans, even if not every fan able to be there. I feel like once we get to a point, even if it's mid-season, where you have a certain percentage vaccinated in certain cities and certain percentage of teams are allowing capacity or closer to, if the Pirates say would allow more fans next month or something like that, that should maybe bring up the conversation of, do you remove these, make it 9 innings again and remove the 7-inning double headers at some point?
Yeah.
Certainly for next year, because if you're not going to count accomplishments, then it doesn't seem like you can have them. It does seem like that brings up the conversation whether you should get rid of them at all. So I just had to get your thoughts, because it seems like it's no longer a conversation anymore on social, but I'm just still dumbfounded based on how that was handled. Mike Persak joining me of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. The Pirates win this one 2-1. Now 12-11 again. A team that has a winning record above 500. Absolutely outstanding for this Pirate team. We'll see how long it lasts. I keep trying to bet that it's not going to last any longer, but I saw my colleague Mike Bakovican threw out the tweet the other day that I believe you lose $800 a day if you bet against this team to lose every game to this point. I saw something like that. So I'm sure some people are losing some cash, because I imagine some of those bets occurred early in the season. Mike Minor versus Mitch Keller tomorrow night, second game of this 2-game set against the Royals, who got to be out for blood right now. A surprising team, but a better team, and a team that is spending a little bit more still as they're trying to rebuild. What do you expect, though, from this Mitch Keller start, and how important is this start for him? Because he has pitched better recently, and prior to that, many wanted to give up on the kid. He's still very young, but how important is it for him to stack quality starts, even if he doesn't win, to keep impressing and stay in this rotation, since they've already been prone to tinker with it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's in much danger of like losing a spot necessarily. But I think it's important just to stack some good feelings together. Like, it's pretty much been his first start was bad, second start was good, third start was bad, fourth start was good. So like, maybe he's due for a bad one. Maybe that's the betting tip or whatever. Anyone looking for.
Right.
But no, I mean, to me, it's just like, you just want to see him. Basically, for me, what I'm watching with him every start is like controlling fastball and whether he's getting hit on it. Because in 2020, and I know it was a shorter season and he was injured for part of it, but opposing hitters hit 184 against his four seam. This year it's 286. And he's gotten some bad luck in terms of like expecting batting average and BABIP and stuff like that. So like maybe he's due for a come down to earth, but like that's the pitch he relies on. His four seam, especially up in the zone, is like that's his thing. He just tries to overpower people, especially when things go bad. And so if he doesn't have that and he's getting rocked on that, then obviously he's in some trouble. And like that's been the problem is he's not locating it super well. And so that's kind of what I'm watching, is if he can get that back, then all of his other pitches, which aren't quite the same level, like aren't quite as good, they become that much more effective. And now he can pour in the sliders and the curveballs and the changeups that he's been working on and become a more effective pitcher. But yeah, I think tomorrow's important just for the sense of like, you want to be encouraged by this guy. I've said from the whole season, even if this all goes bad, even if it all, like the winning streak ends and it all turns bad, like the players that you care about are the young. That's Brian Reynolds, it's Brian Hayes, it's Mitch Keller. Like those are the guys that you care about in terms of like the rebuild that are for sure going to be here no matter what. Like at least that's the goal. Right. So like it's time for Mitch Keller to start going a little bit,
Yeah, and only one of those three that you mentioned is able to say they've had a quality season to this point. Obviously, Brian Hayes injured. Brian Reynolds has been good, picking up from where he left off 2 years ago, not last year. And then Mitch Keller has not. Mitch Keller with a 7.16 ERA. And it shows you how bad he's been, because his ERA is 7.16 after a quality start. He gave up 2 runs off 5 hits with 5 strikeouts and no walks in his last outing against the Tigers. Prior to that, though, 7 runs off 9 hits. It was the whammy, and by far his worst outing. So who knows which Mitch Keller you're going to get there. It's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde for Mitch Keller right now. He will take the mound for the Pirates tomorrow night. Another one of these normal time or new normal time sets, I'm going to hope, here with the 640 situation time-wise, regardless of what happens with these innings and how many innings are pitched and who they want to get credit for things. But Mike Minor for the Royals against Mitch Keller for the Pirates, as the Royals look to even up this series, and the Pirates look to take 2 after winning this one 2-1, and now 12-11 on the year. Mike, I definitely appreciate you joining me. Especially here for a little bit last minute. So I appreciate it. We appreciate it. We'll definitely have you back again. And we are still astounded by this. So I will maybe not have to ask you that question next time we have you on, but as they keep going, we have to keep going. And it is unbelievably amazing to this point. We will see. Let that be the phrase for the Pirates here to this point.
Yeah. And I'm objective. I don't care if they win or lose, but tonight was fun. In the 9th inning, 1-run game, 2 outs. Like everyone was on their feet. Like, it felt good to have that energy back at PNC Park at the very least. And so, fans can ride it while it lasts, and that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. And yeah, it is getting some people more down to the ballpark than they've been in recent weeks. And to have that sense of normalcy, think about this in Pittsburgh for tonight. You have the normalcy of Pirate fans caring and having a game go down to the wire. They actually do win it, so maybe that's not normal for Pirates baseball. And Mike Lange's back on the call for the Penguins. So this was a sense of normalcy, maybe one way or another, for Pittsburgh sports fans on this night, as again the Pirates win this one 2-1. They do win it at the end of a game. They do take it late. They do have to hold on. It is a nail biter. The Pirates win it 2-1 against the best team in baseball. Again, crazy as that sounds, the fans actually were down there. They were able to enjoy it and to celebrate it. And the Pirates are now a game above 500. For Mike Persak, though, of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, for all of us at Pittsburgh Sports Live, I'm Mike Asti. And again, I'm amazed. They're 12-11, 2-1 on this victory. We'll see how long it lasts. But I did not think I would say this Pirate team is a winning team here in late April. But that is just simply the case. All right, thanks, man.